With a heavy heart, I'm here to tell you that Tom Petty of the Heartbreakers has passed away. He had a great life. Right now, he is on complete life support. He hasn't completely passed away yet. He was born in 1950, and he's best known as the frontman of the band Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. He also pursued a solo career in 1989, recording such hit songs as Free Fallin' and Runnin' Down a Dream. Everybody knows those songs. And American rock musician Tom Petty was born in Florida in 1950. And by his teens, he was playing with local favorites Mudcrutch. In 1975, he and other members of the group moved to Los Angeles, where they formed Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. That was in 1975. The following year, the release of their self-titled debut marked the beginning of what would be a decades-long and extremely successful run, during which they would consistently find themselves at the top of the charts with now classic songs such as American Girl, Refugee, Don't Come Round Here No More, and Learning to Fly, among many others. In 1989, Petty embarked on the equally successful solo career with highlights such as the mega hit Free Fallin'. Petty has also collaborated with the likes of Stevie Nicks, Bob Dylan, George Harrison, and Johnny Cash, just to name a few. 40 years and counting, and to today anyway, or last night, Petty continues to tour and record with the Heartbreakers and Mudcrutch since last night. So today's the 2nd. And he did play a concert last night on the 1st, but they rushed him to the hospital, and he's on life support, so he will pass away soon. They usually pull the life support after a while. He's got no brain activity, according to the doctors. Pretty sad day. Tom Petty was born in Gainesville, Florida on October 20th. Oh, he just missed his birthday. 1950. The first son of Earl and Kitty Petty. Though he was close to his mother and younger brother, Petty had a difficult relationship with his father, who was often physically and verbally abusive. But Petty found refuge in music, idolizing the likes of Elvis Presley and the Beatles and learning to play guitar. So he probably, when he sang that song, the guy who quit high school and bought a guitar and learned to play some chords, it's probably him. He probably sang about himself. Got a tattoo, By high school, Petty's passion for music was all-consuming, much to the detriment of his academics. So he put himself into music, and his school suffered for it. And at the age of 17, he dropped out of high school to play bass with his new band, Mudcrutch, named after the farm where two of its members lived. Petty quickly emerged as the frontman and primary songwriter in the group, which soon developed a devoted local following. The year 1974 proved a pivotal one for Petty, who married his girlfriend, Jane Benyo, with whom he already had a daughter, Kimberly. So they already had a daughter, and then he got married, before moving to Los Angeles with Mudcrutch in the hopes of reaching a wider audience. There, Petty and Jane had their second daughter, Adria, and Mudcrutch signed to Shelter Records. But when their lone single went largely unnoticed, the group disbanded. However, the label recognized Petty's talent and offered him a solo contract. Within a few years, their confidence in him would be duly rewarded. After trying a while to put together a new backing band, Petty eventually reconnected with his former Mudcrutch bandmates Mike Campbell, guitar, and Benmont Trench, keyboards, who were playing with bassist Ron Brer and drummer Stan Lynch. Shortly thereafter, they reconstructed Petty's deal with Shelter, signed a contract as Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and set to work on a new record. Released in November 1976. Where were you in 1976? Probably most of you haven't even been born yet. I remember that because it was a bicentennial year, and the bicentennial coins came out. 1776, 1876, 1976, 200-year anniversary of the founding of our country in 1976, and all the bicentennial coins came out. And I was a teenager, so I remember that. Their self-titled debut established the blueprint for success that would follow on much of their subsequent work, combining a hard-edged rock and roll foundation with the pop sensibilities of the 60s groups such as the Beatles and the Byrds, and featuring Petty's distinctive voice and gift for unbelievably good storytelling. So he would write a song, sing it. It was a story, and most songs are. Despite the album's obvious promise, it initially sold poorly until a subsequent tour of England with Niles Lofgren landed it on the British charts. Hoping to capitalize on their newly won overseas popularity, Shelter re-released the single Breakdown in the US, and it reached number 40 on the charts, giving the group their first taste of success. Breakdown. Go ahead, give it to me. Is that it? That was a good song. That I'm sure that went up. Incredibly, the single American Girl, one of their best known and best loved songs, failed to reach the American charts until it too was re-released nearly 2 decades later. Undeterred, the group returned to the studio to record their second album, 1978, You're Gonna Get It, which fared far better than its predecessor, reaching number 23 in the charts and producing the popular singles Listen to Her Heart and I Need to Know. Listen to Her Heart, I Need to Know, I Need to Know. Remember those songs. However, their momentum was momentarily threatened when Shelter was bought by MCA, and Petty's attempts to renegotiate their contract led to lengthy legal proceedings that left him bankrupt and bitter. No more waiting. Despite this start with MCA, the group signed with its subsidiary Backstreet Records and began work on their next album, Damn the Torpedoes. I remember that. Released in 1979, it rocketed to number 2 in the charts, on its way to selling more than 2 million copies, which was a lot back then. Packed with quality songs from beginning to end. Among its more recognizable tracks were the enduring singles, Don't Do Me Like That and Refugee. Everybody knows those. Don't Do Me Like That and Something Something Refugee. Remember that? Which firmly established Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers as rock superstars. Newly empowered, Petty stood his ground when MCA planned to raise the price of their follow-up for the label from the then standard $8.98 to $9.98, threatening to either withhold the recordings or title it $8.98 in protest. The label ultimately relented, and Hard Promises was released in 1981. So Petty didn't want them to raise the price of the album $1. Good for him. The label ultimately, $10 back then was a lot. You could, $10 back then in 1979 was a lot of money. It really was. I mean, people were making $2.65 was the, I think the minimum wage back then in 1979 was $2.65 an hour. That's what we all earned for minimum wage. Hard Promises, released in 1981, reached number 5 in the charts and went platinum. And its lead track, The Waiting, gave the group the first number 1 single. What's The Waiting? The waiting is the hardest part. Something like that. That same year, Petty collaborated with Stevie Nicks on her album Belladonna, recording the hit single duet Stop Dragging My Heart Around, as well as producing Del Shannon's Drop Down and Get Me. Back in the studio with the Heartbreakers, he continued a successful run with the 1982's Long After Dark, I don't remember that one, which reached number 9, with the singles You Got Lucky and Deliver Me hitting number 20 and number 21. You Got Lucky, I don't remember those, I don't think. At the same time, the pressures of fame were taking their toll on both Petty's marriage and his relationship with his bandmates. Shortly after the release of Long After Dark, Ron Blair left the group and was replaced by Howie Epstein. Though some of Petty's finest hours were still to come, the road there would not always be easy. Looking to take their music in a new direction, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers began work on their new album with producers Dave Stewart of the Eurythmics, remember that? Annie Lennox of the Eurythmics, remember them? Robbie Robertson of the band, I love Robbie Robertson. The band was awesome. Great 60s band. And Jimmy Levine. Oh, just go back. The band, have you ever heard of them? They were the band for Bob Dylan, and they broke off. Bob Dylan dumped them or whatever. So they started their own group, and they just called it the band because they were the band for Bob Dylan. Pretty funny, huh? Jimmy Levine, who had co-produced Damn the Torpedoes with Petty. So they produced that. The sessions also included a wide array of additional musicians and backup singers as the band experimented with different sounds. However, handling such a large group of personalities proved time-consuming and frustrating. At one point, the tensions grew so great that Petty punched a wall in the studio, breaking his left hand. At the end of it all came the group's fifth album, Southern Accents, which reached number 7 on the charts and featured the singles Rebels, Make It Better, and Don't Come Around Here No More. That one I remember. Don't Come Around Here No More, which was a neo-psychedelic track co-written by Stewart and inspired by Stevie Nicks. That makes sense. It reached number 13 and was accompanied by a popular Alice in Wonderland themed video that only helped add to the group's success during MTV's heyday. I remember that. Having not had enough of collaboration, I'm not sure what that means. In 1986, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers embarked on a tour with Bob Dylan, performing both their own material and serving as Bob Dylan's backup band, before returning to the studio to record Let Me Up. Although the album reached number 20 in the charts and produced the single Jammin' Me, which reached number 1 in the UK, it was only moderately successful when compared to their earlier accomplishments. However, Petty's friendship with Dylan would lead to another more successful collaboration when they joined George Harrison and Roy Orbison and Jeff Lynne to form the Traveling Wilburys, whose 1988 self-titled album reached number 3 in the charts, went triple platinum, and won the Grammy for Best Rock Performance. In the wake of his success with the Traveling Wilburys, Petty began to work on his first solo album, Full Moon Fever, which was produced by Jeff Lynne and included several of the Heartbreakers. Now, Jeff Lynne was he was ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, and just so you know, Jeff Lynne is a genius. He wrote and produced and sang on all the songs in ELO. I don't even think he had any help. I think he did everything himself. He played all the instruments, he sang, he wrote all the songs. Jeff Lynne's a genius. Just if you didn't know that, it's amazing. Electric Light Orchestra, Jeff Lynne, a genius. Okay, so that Full Moon Fever was released in 1989. The album was a massive success, reaching number 3 in the charts. Yeah, it was done by Jeff Lynne, that's why. And going multiple platinum. The lead single, Free Fallin', reached number 7 on the singles charts and remains among Tom Petty's best-known songs. Running Down a Dream, yep, and I Won't Back Down. Now, those are definitely his best songs. Running Down a Dream and I Won't Back Down. They were really, really crazy good songs. But despite his new and overwhelming popularity as a solo artist, Petty did not turn his back on his bandmates. In 1990, the Traveling Wilburys released their follow-up album, Volume 3. And in 1991, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers put out the platinum-selling Into the Great Wide Open. That was a good song, which featured a popular single of the same name, accompanied by a music video starring Johnny Depp and Faye Dunaway, as well as the top 40 offering Learning to Fly. So that's a big one. Around this time, Petty also revealed he had secretly brokered a deal with Warner Brothers years earlier and that he would be leaving MCA, bringing to an end years of conflict between him and the label. They would go out with a bang, however, releasing a greatest hits album in 1993, which featured the Rick Rubin-produced single, Mary Jane's Last Dance. Last chance with Mary Jane, one more time to feel the pain. That's good, really good song. And a music video starring Kim Basinger. The album would remain on the Billboard charts for more than 6 years. Wow. For his first Warner Brothers offering, Petty teamed with Rick Rubin to produce his second solo album, Wildflowers, 1994, which nearly equaled the achievements of Full Moon Fever. Among its notable tracks are the singles You Don't Know How It Feels, You Wreck Me, and It's Good to Be King. The 2 years later, he reunited with the Heartbreakers, minus Stan Lynch, who left the band in 1994, to record the gold record soundtrack for the films She's the One, and also to play backup for Johnny Cash on his album Unchained. Also in 1996, Petty and his wife Jane divorced after 22 years of marriage, beginning a difficult period for Petty, in which he developed a heroin addiction. So he had a heroin addiction. I'm sure that contributed to his death. Personal struggles aside, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers kept grinding away, selling 20 sellout nights at the Fillmore in San Francisco in 1997 before returning to the studio with Rick Rubin to produce the top 10 album Echo, continuing his record of siding with music fans against the might of the record labels. The single Free Girl Now was initially offered for free as an MP3 download, and he refused to raise ticket prices for their subsequent tour, so he really cared about people. Kicking off the new millennium, Petty got his personal life in order, kicking his heroin addiction and marrying Dana York, who had met a decade earlier. So right around the year 2000, he quit heroin. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers released their 11th album, The Last DJ, on which Petty aired his ongoing grievances about the record industry. Whatever he might think of it, however, the music industry loved him back, and later that year, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Amidst the accolades, Howie Epstein was fired from the group when his own heroin addiction grew problematic. He died of an overdose the following year, at which point the original bassist Ron Blair rejoined the Heartbreakers. In 2006, Petty went solo once more, working with Jeff Lynne to produce the number 4 charting album Highway Companion, before reuniting with the Heartbreakers for a 30th anniversary tour. The following year, the group was the focus of a 4-hour documentary titled Runnin' Down a Dream, which covered the history of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers up to that date. And in 2008, they performed during the halftime show of the Super Bowl. That's cool. The same year, Petty returned to his roots by reforming Mudcrutch to record their self-titled debut album more than 30 years after its original inception. He returned with the Heartbreakers in 2010 for a live studio album Mojo, followed by several years of touring before knocking out their 13th album in 2014, Hypnotic Eye. Far from unlucky, it was their first album to ever reach number 1 on the charts. So in 2014, he put out Hypnotic Eye, and it went to number 1 on the charts. Unbelievable. And so, again, with a heavy heart, Tom Petty passes away. He was born in 1950, and I'm sure his heroin addiction had something to do with it. It's possible maybe he started, doing heroin again and it killed him, or who knows. But Tom Petty, we will miss him. He's left us with a lot of music. Put your comments, add your comments below. Please let me know what your favorite Tom Petty song is. Everybody, put in the comments what your favorite Tom Petty song is, and also, how old were you when you first heard Tom Petty? And let me know any experiences you've had with him if you ever met him. All right, so thanks for listening. Please share this video. Please like, and please subscribe. Thank you very much. Take care.